Right, so this is a video showing you how to do the technical drawing part of your mechanical prototype section of your coursework. Before we can do the technical drawings, we first need to be able to make 3D models. So that's what this video is going to show, and then there's another video showing you how to actually make technical drawings from those 3D models. So we're going to look at how it is we make our beta shaft and the beta head, and then how we assemble it, add it together with some standard parts as well. Right, so let's get stuck in. So before we start doing anything, the first thing we do need to make sure we've done is we go to your account. You need to go to preferences, as I'm showing here, and you need to make sure your units are in millimeters, degrees, kilograms. The rest are less important. Really, that force unit, that should be Newton there. Yeah, we need to make sure we've got the correct units. If they're not in millimeters, most important one is millimeters. That's what we're going to be using today. But just generally, we are British, and in Britain we use, for engineering in particular, we use millimeters, degrees, kilograms, newtons, pascals, joules, and all that sort of stuff. The units that you'll have been using essentially in your examined units. Right, okay, so this is our document area on Onshape. So that shows you all the things you've made in the past. Now, you might not have anything there, or you might have had a little bit of play around and you've got a few things. But yeah, that's where the stuff the 3D model you made will appear. So we need to click Create to start making a 3D model, and we need to create a document. And I'm going to give this a name, so I'm going to call it Prototype 1. Well, in fact, no, I'm going to change the name. I'm going to call it Bass Drum Pedal Prototype 1. You can call it what you want, within reason. That's just helps you keep organized. And then it should take us to this screen. So it's uploaded about our workspace. So this area here is called the Part Studio. And that's where we're going to make our 3D models of our non-standard parts. And then in the assembly section, we can put them all together with some standard parts. So, quick tour. When you do your CAD unit, we'll go through things in a lot more detail. But essentially, the way CAD works is you start by drawing a 2D sketch, and you turn, using various tools, you turn that 2D sketch into a 3D object. Now, everything we're doing is just cylinders. So all we'll be using is something called extrude, which basically takes your 2D shape, pulls it, turns it into a 3D object. So this is our workspace. So we can use the left button on the mouse to select things. So I've got my different planes. So when we're sketching, we have to pick a plane that we're going to sketch on. I can then hold down the right mouse button to rotate that round. So once I've got a 3D part, if I want to look at it from different angles, I can do that. I can also use this in the corner as well. So I can click on this cube, look at different faces of that cube. So if I want to look at the front, click on front and it'll be looking at front view, or looking on the top, click on the corner and then top, and so forth. And then the middle sort of scrolling mouse bunny thing, if I roll that back and forwards, that'll zoom in and out. And if I hold it down, I can sort of drag around without changing the angle, the orientation. Right, so that's that. And then here we'll have what we call our features list, and then down here we have our parts list. So at the moment we've got nothing. So we need to start sketching. So I'm going to start by sketching on the top plane. So I need to make sure, firstly, I'm looking at the top. I'm then going to click Sketch. And then what I need to do is select the top plane to start sketching in the top plane. If I have a different plane selected, if I try and sketch, so if I had the right plane selected and try and sketch, it will draw sketches on the right plane, which I won't be able to see. Right, okay, so let's start off with the beta head, because that's the kind of easier one of the two. So I'm going to use a sketch tool called Center Point Circle. So I click on that. I might have to click on the drop down there to select it. And basically what it'll do is when I click anywhere, it will draw a circle, and it will be centered on wherever I click to start off with. Now, a sensible place to start is not there, but in fact the origin. So I'm going to click Escape to deselect, and then I'm going to click on that, delete, get rid of it. So I'm going to start with a circle, I'm going to click on the origin, and then I can drag around to make that circle what size I want. And then I can use the dimension tool here to set that to what the dimension should be, or the diameter should be. So it needs to be 40.6 millimeters, according to Chris's measurement. Now you need to make sure you use your measurements, the ones that you've made, not the ones that I'm saying here. They should be similar, but I would imagine they won't be exactly the same. So that little circle with a line through it indicates that that's a diameter measurement. If it was an R, capital R, that'd be a radius measurement. So I've got my sketch, and that's all I need to do for that. That's not all I need to do for that one. So I'm going to go back into this sketch. I'm going to edit it. So the beta head has a hole in the middle. So I need to draw a circle for that hole. And again, I'm going to need the dimension tool, set the dimensions of that. And according to Chris's measurement, the hole in the middle of that has a diameter of 6 millimeters. Okay, right. So there, I've got my 2D sketches. So I'm now going to use this extrude tool to turn that into a 3D shape. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to extrude upwards. And if I wanted to, I could select on the center of that circle and it'd extrude all of it, but I want to have that hole going through the middle. So I'm going to select again, so I've got the hole in the middle. And then I can either drag that arrow around like that to change the size, or I can again type a dimension in here, and the length of that is 28 millimeters. So I'm going to set that depth to 28 millimeters and it'll extrude that circle up 28 mil. Okay. So there I are. I've got my cylinder. Now you'll have noticed that it's a little rounded on the edges. So in the real thing. So our 3D model wants to reflect that. So up here, I've got this tool here called fillet. Now, if we look, each of these like icons shows a different thing. Usually the icon gives you an idea of what it does. So fillet will basically smooth off the edges. Chamfer will kind of just keep a straight edge for the edges. So I want fillet because it was kind of smooth, and then I'm going to click on there, click on the edges. I'm going to set that to about, I don't know, 3 millimeters, and then that looks about right. Okay, don't need to be precise, don't need to worry too much, overthink that radius. So there we are. There's the beta head. I'm going to go down to here, my part list. I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call that beta head, so I know what I'm talking about. Right. So that's our beta head. So now what we need to do is make the shaft. So we're going to do a similar thing. So I'm going to start by doing a sketch. I'm going to do that sketch again on the top plane. And I'm going to draw a circle. Now, obviously, I don't want to do it on the center there because I've already got my beta head there. So I am going to do this one off to the side. And just like before, I'm going to set the dimensions. So that had a diameter of about 5.2 mil. So let's set that 5.2 mil. And then I'm going to extrude it. And it was about 135.5 mil. So there we are. So that is the main bit of the shaft. Now, you'll have noticed when you made your measurements, there was a little kind of bit sticking out, but roughly like, I don't know, quarter of the way down, which we, from now on, I'm going to refer to as the flange. So for the flange, I need to sketch it kind of down here. Now, when I do sketches at the moment, I either do them on the top plane, the right plane, or the front plane. I can't sketch anywhere else. So that sketch was done on the top plane and then extruded it like this. So what I need to do is create a new plane for me to sketch on. So I'm going to click plane there, and then I'm going to click on the face of the edge there. Now, if I accidentally select just the edge, like so, it'll go red, meaning it won't work. So I'm going to click on that cross there, and then I'm going to make sure I've selected the face itself. It'll say face extrude to, and then it will create a new plane that's offset, because I want to do an offset plane that's offset by whatever distance I put in. Now, you'll notice it putting the plane up here. That's not a great deal of use for me. I want it to be sort of down here somewhere. So I'm going to click on this arrow here to do it in the opposite direction. And then I'm going to set that was measured to be about 33.8 mil away from the edge there. Okay. Right, so I've now got my plane here that I can sketch on. So again, I'm going to do another sketch. I'm going to select that new plane, plane 1, and then I can now start sketching down here. So again, all I want to do is draw a circle for this. Now, I also want to have that sketch I did before in view. Now, at the moment, it won't let me select on the center of that circle. So I'm just going to not worry too much about that. And I'm going to draw my circle to the right size. So again, use my dimension tool. I'm going to set that to 10 mil because it was about 10 mil. And then what I want to do is make sure that the center of this circle matches up with the center of the circle I drew there. So if I zoom in a bit, I've got the center of that previous circle and I've got the center of my new circle. So I need to use this tool here called coincident. That basically attaches things. So if I click coincident and then click on that there and that there, it'll shift my circle I've just drawn so it's fixed in place. So the centers of my circle for my flange and the center for the shaft are in exactly the same place. And then I can click on my tick and then I can extrude that. And I want to extrude that, and it was 1.9 millimeters thick. And I want to make it go in the opposite direction as well, so it's going down slightly. Okay, so there we are. So there is my shaft. Now the thing that's missing from this shaft is the thread. So the way I add the thread is I click on external thread. I then click on the edge, and it'll do the thread for me. And I want that to be, it's already done it, I want it to be about 32 mil. If I try and do 33 mil, for some reason, it isn't quite like that. Oh no, it's liked it this time. It didn't like it when I did before. That's the one thing you'll find with old shape. It doesn't always do the same thing. What happens if we go 34? Okay, it didn't like 34, but it did like 33. So play around until you get it as close to the sort of flange as you can. And there we are. We have our beta shaft and we have our beta head, our two parts. Okay. So now what we need to do is put them together. We need to assemble them. So we've got our non-standard parts, and then we can also use some standard parts. So if we click on our assembly tab, we'll have a similar sort of thing. The way we look around in this is the same way as before, but we have a bunch of different icons here. Now these are called mates. So a mate is how you kind of attach things, essentially. We're going to just use fastened mate because we don't want any of the bits that we're connecting together to move. So I'm going to click insert. And then I'm going to click on Part Studio 1, and then it'll insert my beta head and Part 2. Let's quickly just go back here and just rename this beta shaft. And then hopefully that's updated this as well. Yeah, so I've got my beta head, I've got my beta shaft. So we also had a couple of washers and a nut. So if we click Insert, go to Standard Content, we can select washers. And then we basically want to have what's called, well, it doesn't really matter really which one we use. Let's just go with chamfered plain washer normal. And then we want to set the internal diameter, which is what the M5 there is. So the washer had an internal diameter of about 6 mil. So if we go M6, and then I'm going to have to zoom out on this because it won't show me for some reason. So insert. And then I can insert 2 of those washers. Okay, like so. And I'm going to click on the next. I want a nut. So I'm going to click nuts. And again, annoyingly, they don't seem to have the exact type of nut that we did. So let's just have a quick look through these. Grade C. No, none of them seem to be rounded. So we'll just go with just this nut, like that. And again, the internal diameter of that was about 5 mil, I think. So we'll go with the M5 one. We know that the diameter of that is about 5 mil as well, so that should fit on. Whoops, it's gone because I didn't click insert. So let's go back, insert, and there's my nut. And then I click on the tick. Okay, right. So now what I need to do is start putting these all together. So I'm going to use this thing called a fastened mate because I don't want any movement. So what we do with our fastened mate is we click on that and then we have to select the kind of openings. So I want essentially that side, the chamfered side of the washer, to connect to that bit of the shaft like so. Now when it's done that, it's kind of done it the wrong way around. So I'm going to click on this flip here, and that will now have attached that as I want it to. So click on my tick. I'm then going to do, I want that hole, or that end of that hole. So if I click there like so, I then want that to go around there like so. And again, it's done that the wrong way around. So I'm going to flip that over, and I should see the bit of flange, the washer, and then the beta head. So I can click on the tick, and then I want to pop my other washer on top. So I want the chamfered bit on the end. So I want that bit to go there. And again, wrong direction, so I'll flip it. And then lastly, I'm going to whack the nut on the end. So I want that hole to match up with that hole. And that is now the right way up. So I'm going to click on the tick. And there we are. We have connected it all together. So that is how we assemble bit and shaft. And then the last thing we need to do is just create something called an exploded view. So down on the right here, there's this, if we highlight that kind of L-shaped box and another little box and go exploded view, well, the exploded view will show us the position of all those parts relative to each other when we explode the view. So we open up here, we should get this sort of screen over here. We click exploded view, add exploded view, and then all we're going to do is click on the parts, drag them up a bit, and then set them certain distances away. So I'm going to set that to 70 mil away, and it'll drag it away 70 mils away from there. I'm going to click on tick, and then do the same for the washer, drag it up. I'm going to set that to 60 mil, and then I'm going to click on the tick. I'm then going to do the beater. I'm going to drag it up. I'm going to set that to minus 50. And then I'm going to click on the washer. I'm going to drag that up. And I'm going to set that to minus 40. Okay. And then I'm going to click on the tick. And then we click done. And then I've now created that exploded view. So if I right click on there and activate explode one, it'll show all the different parts relative to each other.